Dear audience, today we're going to talk about how to describe a diagram in IELTS Writing Text 1. I have already uploaded a video on this topic in Bengali, but today I am going to upload this video in English language because there are many people who are outside of our country. That's why I'm going to make this video. So let's start. Okay, we all know we have bar graph, pie chart, line graph, table, diagram, and map. These are 4 or 5 kinds or 6 kinds of IELTS writing text 1. Today, actually, we will talk about diagram. How to describe a diagram? So this is the diagram which we are going to describe step by step today. Hydroelectric power generation, how to produce electricity from the water. So this is the diagram we're going to describe. This is the topic actually. The diagram below shows the process of using water to produce electricity. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparison where relevant. Write at least 150 words. Okay, you must write 150 words. You cannot write less than 150 words. You can write more. You can write 160 words, 170 words, even 200 or more than 200 words, but not less than 150 words. Okay, because otherwise you cannot explain these steps properly. So let's go. Step 1. At the beginning, how you will get the question in the IELTS exam, find out how many parts are there. You can find the sea, sun, evaporation, rain, reservoir, dam, valve open and close, high voltage cable, turbine, pump, transformer station, underground cables, hospitals and schools. So these are the points, but you must identify the main parts how to produce electricity. And then find out where's the beginning and where's the ending. We see that the diagram begins with the sun and ends with the use, which is used in hospital, manufacturing, and to use in the residential areas. So find out what is the beginning and what is the ending. And also look for how many elements are there. We have already discussed what are the elements: sun, evaporation, rain, dam, reservoir, valves, high voltage cable, transformer station, underground cables, hospitals, schools. These are actually the elements which you need to notice. But how many steps? You need to see here. What are the steps? What is the relationship with one step to another step? Actually, here we find 2 steps. One is natural process and another one is artificial process. In the case of natural process, we find the sun, sea, evaporation, rain, and reservoir. And after the dam, all the elements are actually artificial because those are man-made elements. But before them, these are made naturally. So we can divide this diagram in 2 parts: natural process and artificial process. And definitely there is a relationship between the natural process and artificial process. Without natural process, so we cannot go for the artificial process and we cannot get the electricity. And the second step, find out the elements and the function. Elements and the function. In the natural elements, we find sun, sea, evaporation, cloud, and rain. In the artificial process, we find dam, turbine, high voltage cables, transformer station, underground cable, hospitals, and schools. In both cases, the elements and their function have to discuss step by steps. First, you will discuss the natural process and one after another. And after discussing the natural process, you must discuss the artificial process chronologically, orderly, and step by steps. We know there are three parts in a diagram. First, you need to preface the topic. Second, you need to write the overview and summary of the diagram. Third, you need to describe in details and you need to describe every element from the beginning to the end. Now, we will go for the paraphrasing or introduction. The other name of paraphrasing is introduction. Paraphrasing. For the introduction, you need to paraphrase the topic in your own words. You need to change some expression like instead of gives, you can write provides, shows, illustrates, represents, or depicts. If we think about the topic, we can easily understand. The topic is the diagram below shows the process of using water to produce electricity. This is the topic, and we'll make paraphrase on this topic. Now look at the paraphrasing. The diagram depicts the method of how the electricity is generated utilizing water. Do you find any differences? The diagram is diagram. You need not change the diagram. Instead of shows, you can write depict. You can write depicts. Instead of process, you can write method. Instead of using, you can write utilizing water. And you can write the production instead of production. You can write the electricity generated. Just a little bit changes, okay? So that the examiner can understand that you have used your own words. So this is actually called paraphrasing, by which you can write paraphrasing while you are going to describe a diagram. Now, in the second part, we'll go for the overview. In the case of overview, we'll always use word overall to start overview. After the introduction, you need to provide a general overview to summarize what's going on in the diagram. Just summary. In 2 or 3 sentences, you'll say what's the main theme, main ideas of this diagram. That is actually called overview. So only 2 or 3 sentences you will finish overview. The number of stages. Here's a good way to write a general overview. So you should start with overall, then put comma. Overall, it can be said that by following 2 methods or 2 ways or 2 steps, for example, natural process and artificial process, electricity is generated. You can also include, in the case of natural process, we find sun, sea, evaporation, rain, and reservoir. In the case of artificial process, we find dam, open and closed-ended valve, turbine, pump, high voltage cable, transformer station, underground cables, hospitals, and schools. If you want, you can use these elements. If you think that your writing will be shorter, in that case, you can use this element. Now, we are going to start with our first paragraph. You can remember that we'll use fastly in the case of first paragraph, and obviously, of course, we'll start with the natural process. So you can write, the natural process is both the condensation and evaporation process. You can find condensation process and evaporation process. In the natural process, the water is steamed by the sun and the water is evaporated into the cloud and the cloud falls down into the reservoir as rain. So if you cannot write this way, if you want to write simply, you can write that in the case of natural process, we find sun, the seawater is heated by the sun, which produce evaporation, and evaporation turns into clouds. When the clouds become heavier, it comes to the earth as rain, which is reserved into the reservoir. So what I have already told, you can write this simply. But if you want to write perfectly with good English, you can write, which you can see in the slide, like firstly, in the natural process, has both the condensation and evaporation process. In the natural process, the water is changed by the sun and the water is evaporated into the cloud and the cloud falls down into the reservoir as rain. So this is the first stage. Second step, paragraph 2 and 3, we can find, secondly, the rainwater flows from the reservoir to the turbine through a pipe where a valve controls the volume of water. You can see the valve open and closing that control the volume of water. Afterwards, the water is pushed back to the reservoir by a pump. You can see the pump. Yes, this pump. This again pushes the water to the reservoir because no need to waste the water. This is the first step of the mechanical process. By this way, we can finish the mechanical process. Now go to the final stage. Now, how the electricity is produced? Actually, from the turbine, the electricity is produced. Finally, the turbine converts water into electricity. You can see the turbine. From the turbine, it actually produces electricity. Then electricity is sent to the high voltage cable. In this part, the step 2 of mechanical process begins where turbine plays a central role to produce electricity. Actually, turbine plays a central role. From the spinning of the turbine, the electricity is produced and that is sent to the transformer station through a high voltage cable. From the spinning, you see, electricity is produced, that is sent into the transformer station, that is sent into the high voltage cable. After that, the electricity is transferred to the transformer station to make it usable. And high voltage, from the high voltage, it is sent to the transformer station to make it usable. Then the electricity is sent to the school, hospitals, factories, household, and to the customers by an underground cables. So this is how electricity is produced. Electricity is sent to the hospital, school, and college to use it. So this is how step by step you will write a diagram. Now let's see the model answer at a glance. So now I'm going to read aloud the model answers. The diagram depicts the method of how the electricity is generated utilizing water. The diagram depicts the method of how the electricity is generated utilizing water. So this is the paraphrasing. Then comes the overview, overall. It can be said that by following two methods, i.e. natural process and artificial process, electricity is generated. Firstly, the natural process is both the condensation and evaporation process. In the natural process, the water is changed by the sun and the water is evaporated into the clouds and the cloud falls down into the reservoir as rain. Secondly, the rainwater flows from the reservoir to the turbine through a pipe where a valve controls the volume of water. You can see that. Afterwards, the water is pushed back to the reservoir by pump. This is the first step of the mechanical process. Finally, the turbine converts water into the electricity. In this part, the second step of mechanical process begins, where turbine plays a central role to produce the electricity. From the spinning of the turbine, the electricity is produced and that is sent to the transformer station through a high voltage cable to make it usable. Then the electricity is sent to the schools, hospitals, factories, household, and to the customers by an underground cables. So this is the overall description of a diagram. So when you will start, by this way you will finish the diagram. Now I'm going to show you some linkers which is used to using connectors. Process is a series of changes that happen over time. That's why time connectors are extremely important for writing about process diagram. Use these time connectors to describe specific features of your diagram. So when you will write writing text 1 special diagram, the examiner will look for the connectors, how you mention steps and how you use the connectors to link between one step to another step. I'm going to show you that. So these are the connectors which you will use to describe the process diagram. First of all, firstly, to begin, after that, then, next, in the next stage, following this, subsequently, finally. So these are some linkers. There are many other linkers. These are the linkers which you can use to describe a diagram. Dear audience, we have already finished the discussion of this diagram. I hope that you have understood it perfectly. And if you find such diagram, you will describe this way. And of course, you will ensure a better score if you can write this way. However, if you have any confusion about this diagram, you can write me in the comment section and you can suggest me how to develop or how to improve the lecture. I will definitely do that for you. Thank you very much again to listen my lecture. Have a good day. Take care.